Hi everybody, Florida Trailblazer checking in with you here at Salt Springs State Park, located by the Gulf of Mexico here in Florida. And it's a nice place. Hike around these trails, enjoy the scenery here along the water, and some interesting history along the way. Today we're going to take a journey through the park, explore some of the sights. Fishing. In this area, mullet fishing has been part of this region as far back as the Calusa Indian settlements, who fished using nets made from the palm fibers. You can see some of the illustrations and photos on the sign. Incredible. You can see some interesting facts. During World War II, Florida provided over 55 million pounds of mullet netted as part of our food supply. Troops overseas received mullet packed in salt to preserve the meat. Here's another interesting fact. The salt springs of Werner-Boyce Salt Springs State Park are believed to have produced salt during the Civil War era for the same purpose, supplying meat to the troops. Let's walk over here and take a look at this fishing boat. Really neat, just some of the history you can learn about and discover at this park. There's a boardwalk at the park. Leads you through some of the wilderness out to an area where you can launch a kayak. You can see this is a nice area to launch a kayak. Here in the park, this is really neat. There's an area here with some books. Take a book, leave a book. Little free library. That's really neat to see out here. You can sit at these tables, read a book, enjoy the nature out in this place. More books on this side. There's a spring over here. This is Cauldron Spring. Now, there are some springs here along these trails. And throughout Florida, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of natural springs. It's part of the unique features here in the state to experience. Here is Reflection Spring. Let's follow this path. Here is Reflection Spring. Now here's a sign describing about bald eagles, and you can sometimes see them out here in these areas. And you can see in the park, here's a bald eagle's nest that's been built to simulate how they look in the wild. This is incredible. Even has some eggs there at the bottom of the nest. Here I am inside this eagle's nest. Have you ever seen a bald eagle in the wild? Fascinating birds to see if you ever get a chance. I've seen them many times on my adventures, and I always cherish those moments. In fact, I remember one adventure I walked right under a bald eagle's nest. You could see flying around the nest, and the juveniles up in the nest as well. It was a really incredible sight. Seeing this area here brings back that memory. Here's a view of Salt Springs in the park. Here's an interpretive sign at the park describing history about tools used to make salt. During the Civil War in Florida, a single cast iron sugar kettle was commonly used over a limestone fire ring to boil seawater from the Gulf of Mexico. Larger salt works used multiple kettles placed on larger brick ovens or iron boilers. Salt was the lifeblood of the Confederacy. Before refrigeration, salt was a valuable commodity used to preserve meat, fish, and other food products. It was also used to heal wounds and provide a needed nutrient for survival. Now, this state park was named for the existence of one of the many small salt-producing operations commonly found throughout Florida during the American Civil War. It was so important to the Confederate cause that producing salt for the war effort would exempt a man from fighting. Searching for the telltale signs of smoke from a salt works, Northern Union gunboats and raiding parties were busy throughout this time, raiding and destroying many salt-producing operations all along the coastline here in Florida in her effort to defeat the Southern Confederate forces and bring the war to an end. You can see remains of a kettle here they used for salt production. And this kettle was donated by Wilbur Dew of Dade City with assistance from Sid Taylor and Steve Melton. Thank you very much. Really nice scenery, interesting history. Learn about and discover at this park. Amazing walking around the trails. Lots of recreational activities for everybody to enjoy here. There's a mobile birding platform just up ahead. Wow, and here's a sign indicating many of the birds that you can see throughout the area. You see a lot of different trees around the park. Here's a red cedar tree. Another interesting layer of history at the park describing the turpentine industry, which was a very large industry in Florida at one time. You can see remains of this pine tree here, and they would tap these trees for sap and resin and use the gum for the process of producing turpentine, which was used in an array of products. You can see the sign here describes some of the history. It has been used in paint, solvents, soap, ink, lubricants, toothpaste, medicines, and many other products. Here describes about box cuts. Before 1910, large notches called box cuts were cut into the base of pine trees to collect the gum, which flowed from V-shaped scars cut into the bark. Later on, clay cups replaced the box cut. And they called these scars that were V-shaped in the trees cat faces due to their appearance. And you can see here on the sign, cat face tree with hurdy cup and a box cut pre-1910. Look down here, you can see a box cut. At one time, it was not uncommon for prisoners to be leased out by a local sheriff to do this work. The tool below is a scraper used to remove gum on the trees and keep the sap flowing. So you can see this tool here. Turpentine box cuts in Salt Springs State Park. Really neat seeing some of this turpentine history in the park. As I've explored throughout Florida, I've seen many old turpentine camps in the woods, and you can see some of the old pine stumps still remaining with the notches carved into them, the cat face markings, and sometimes you can even see remains of the clay cups, often referred to as hurdy cups. They were invented by Charles Hurdy in the early 1900s, and it was one of the methods used to collect the resin from the pine trees. Take a look at this over here off the trail. You can see remains from another pine tree that was used in the turpentine industry. You can see the box cut right here. Wow, take a look at this. You can see this pine tree was used during the Turpentine era. Box cut. You can see some markings here on the tree. Here is Fisher's Corner in the park, and it's a nice place to fish, enjoy the water.